Yeah, so yesterday which we have seen about like understanding classes. Yes, the main classes which are understanding A, B, C. A which is supporting that like as a first octet for the network and the last 3 octets for the devices, and B is for this as we are understanding 2 octets for first 2 octets for the network and last 2 octets for the devices, and the C, yeah, the C the first 3 octets and last octet. Yeah, that is about the classes we are understanding: class A, class B, class C. And then which we had some points on this like yeah, understanding once if you know this IP address and how do you know about it, like what is the network IP address which is configured and what is the subnet mask for that, or what is the broadcasting channel that we have. Yeah, the how do we get it, if you have this CADR or if you have the subnet mask. Yeah, that is also one small concept which we are understanding. But now let's go for that, the concluding about it are some more points on this. Yeah, the subnet mask, like suppose if you give that like /32. Yeah, whenever we are defining this within the cloud and VPCs and security groups, the CADR notations are going to play a very, very important role. Suppose if you define that, sir, if you see that the CADR only which is have the /32. So what is the meaning of that? So that is only that particular IP address. That means I mean, as we are understanding, so /32 CADR which is going to help 32 minus 32, that is 0, and 2 power 0. 2 power 0, that is 1, right? The only one IP address. That means only my system IP address I need to allow that. As a security groups, whenever we are defining our network, NACL is defining that. Yeah, how do you define that? Only the particular IP address. Yeah, if I use it IP address with the /32, then only that IP address that is going to support it. Like that, if you just understand /31. So how many devices that we can have it from that is 2 IP addresses. And /30 or /29, like that. So on the basis of the number of devices which we are expecting that from that CADR, yes, we can use it and we can configure it. That's about like CADR notations. This is overall understanding yesterday. And if I give that the /0, what is the meaning of that? So that is like 2 power 32, almost like 64,536. Not only, I mean, sorry. Yeah, not only just like 65,000, all IP addresses, if you like to define it as a public IP address. Yes, sometimes whenever we are creating about it gateways, yes, we need to allow about it public access. But public access, how to define it? Yeah, the /0 which is available. So where it is helping about it 2 power 32. Yeah, these are all some points which we can understand as a CADR notations. Yeah, the quick conclusion point of view: /32, no IP number can change, and /24, yeah, that is a 4th octet which is going to change it, and /16, that's last 2 octets, /8, yeah, 3 octets, and 0, that is all octets are devices. That is any IP address. Yeah, so yeah, IP address ranges point of view, one IP or all IPs, that is just concluding about it. And we can use it about it like, yeah, yes, as we are understanding /24 /26. That's options also which we can use it on the basis of the number of devices which are required. Yeah, so refer that this like ipaddressguide.com is a site which is available. So if you need it, any specific number of devices point of view, if you would like to get it the CADR notations, yes, refer that the site and get it about it on the basis of the requirement. So finally, subnet mask, we have like 2 approaches. The subnet mask can take 2 forms. What are those 2 forms? One is this notation. Yeah, the first we are understanding class A, class B, class C. Whenever we are understanding, yes, like how the subnet mask. Yeah, this is one format, but this is normally we don't see this format in the cloud infrastructures. But important format what we are having this is CADR notation. Yeah, this is the more common. Yes, whenever we are defining this networks within the cloud, yes, this is the notation is recommended. But on the individual systems point of view or the device point of view, what is the subnet mask? That's why I have this to understand point of view. Yes, normal, this is the very less common notation, subnet mask to define it. But the CADR notation is the latest, the more commonly that they are using about it within the cloud infrastructures. Yeah, that is the overall conclusion. So if you have this like the classes of these IP addresses, how do you identify the subnet mask? Either with older approaches or CDR notations. Yeah, so little exercise which you can do that this one. What is this meaning of the /24? Yeah, just can you ping this in the chart window? To understand whether you got the concept or not. Is what is the meaning of the /24? Yeah, it's deep like yeah, subnet mask is that correct? Yeah, 2 power 8, those many number of devices, that's we can have it. Yeah. Yeah, that is around 256 IP addresses. What about /16? So if you need like 65,536 devices, yeah, this is the notation which is supporting. And what is the meaning of the /32? Yeah, only the current IP address which is going to allow that. Yes. Now this is meaning, suppose if you're going to define the security groups level, or we have like, I mean, anyway, cloud, whenever we come back, where do we use it in these notations? Yes, that is a concept which will come back. But networks point of view, this is one of the important thing where before going to move to that, the cloud. Yeah, so some cases which we need to restrict to only the particular IP address. But how do I restrict it to only particular IP address allowing that? Yeah, that IP address /32, if you give it, what is the meaning of that is you are allowing that only that IP address, it's only that single IP address. And some gateways, whenever we are defining about it, is we need to use it notation all IP address. So there is a public which we need to allow that. But how do we define that the public allowing that? Or from any IP address allowing that? Yeah, that is 0000/0 notations, all IPs. But is it recommended allowing that all the IP addresses to that database instances or like middleware instances? But okay, I mean, we didn't discuss about the middleware and database, all these keywords. There's Monday or Tuesday which are coming up with that, some high level architecture, high level architectures. In that architecture, like what are the main component that is going to helpful? So in overall the communication point of view, once we give the request, so what are the layers of this request and response process? During that time we'll come back. But some of the middleware services or database services which we need to abstract it from the public network. Yeah, we have some devices where which will be given that public access, and some of the like devices where we don't give that public. That means private only. Yeah, but how to manage it? Yeah, the CDR notations are going to helpful. So one of the important concept. Yeah, refer that to this IP address guide.com site where you can get it about that on the base of the CDR, a range of IP addresses, or what is the starting IP, or what is like end of that IP address which we'll be having within that CDR. Yes, use that site and get that the information of it. Yeah, let's conclude about it from this range of the classes, A class, B class, and C classes. Which range of IP addresses that will be used for the private IP addresses, private IP point of view? Yes, what is that like? I mean, the private IP ranges that will be used is some standard the IP address range which we have. So if we see that the 10 series, so which are having like a 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255, so which are notation like a /8. Yeah, you need to configure like the private network, and you need to have like a big networking configuration of this, that is with the private networks. Then the recommended of that class A, and within that class A, so which range of IP address can be used as a private is, that is a 10.0.0.0 this is a 10.255.255.255. Yeah, the large networks and the big networks, they use it about it. This is one of the CADR notation for the private subnet mask. And whenever we are going to work with that, within the AWS, if you launch that any EC2 instance, or if you're using any default VPCs or the networks from that cloud, that is AWS. So what is the notation that we have to say is each and every system IP address that we are going to have 172.16 to 172.31. So this is like a /12 That means yeah, there's a number of devices which you can have it within that the default VPCs, but we also can create about our own VPC, but we'll come back in the cloud. But the default, what is the private subnet mask that will be used within that AWS cloud is from the class B, and which we have this like a private range of IP address, that is 172.16 to 172.31. And another notation which we have like the home networks. That means within about our home, and you have some devices and which you need to use it as a private with a Wi-Fi routing. Then mostly which we see that IP addresses, that is 192.168 series. Yeah, that is a /16. These are home networks point of view which we use it the mostly. Yeah, these are all like class A point of view, class B point of view, class C point of view. Some standard private IP address networks which have been defined. Within that's like internal networks. Whenever yeah, the infrastructure, whenever we are working with that, we see that's like a 10 series or like 192 as a home editions point of view, or some series like as a cloud infrastructures 172 series, that is from the class B. Yeah, there are the range of IP address that we'll be having about it from those networks. Just keep this in mind. Yes, like we have the public IP addresses and private IP address range within this networks. Yes, some standards which we have, you can browse it in the Google also. Yes, like all the rest of that IP on the internet are public. Yeah, the remaining any IP, suppose if you log into that about, I mean, yeah, in the browser, if you just type there, what is my IP, we'll see that like IP addresses other than these ranges. Yeah, the remaining all are like as a public IP addresses. Yeah, that's about some concept, understanding subnet mask point of view, CDR notations point of view, and 4 octets why we have the networks to identify, and as well as yeah, the IP addresses to identify, and standard classes point of view, a class A, class B, class C. So a range of like IP addresses that we can have it, and finally like a private addresses from that class A, class B, or class C. We have like some specific options. That is 192 series, 172 series, and as well as 10 series. 10 series that they use it mostly the big networks point of view, and the remaining all are the small on the base of the requirement. Yeah, that's one point which we need to have, the networks, the basic point. Yeah, now the system level, now if you go to that, yes, about our Linux system. Yes, we are working with this Linux, right? Yes, if you go to that about our Linux system, yeah, how do I see this like these IP addresses, or how do I test it whether we are able to connect it to the systems or not, or whenever we are connecting to the system. But anyway, we'll come back like SHR, SCP protocols. How do we use it? That is separate class is available on that protocols. But like yeah, the today understanding of it on the system. Yes, if you'd like to configure that, that's like networking options, or where that configuration files are located. And if you'd like to define the host names, yes, how to define it, and what is like yeah, DNS options. Yeah, there are some points which are available. Let's continue working or understanding this point. Yeah, these are objectives which are going to look into that. Yeah, how to identify the IP addresses with IP and ifconfig, some utilities are available, and how to configure the host names to the systems. And yeah, what is the local DNS server? I'm going to talk into the only local DNS as the Linux point of view. But whenever we talk in the cloud, yes, how do we define that DNS services within the cloud? That will come back. But at the system level, yeah, what is the main the DNS configuration file which is helping us to resolve the names? Yeah, that is etc host. What is this file, and how do we use it? This will come back. And how do we see this list of all the ports which are listening on the system? Yeah, we need to know that like suppose you have started some app services or database services, the proxy services, but those services are up and running. How do you check it out? How do you work with that? Yeah, the ports identifications and some DHCP. DHCP, yes, what is the purpose of this DHCP? And yeah, we have some points to understand it. We'll come back. Yeah, first, how do you identify the IP addresses within the system? Suppose, okay, let me access the system. Yeah, this is about the system, the vagrant which I have just started, and I have logged in with root, or like let me exit that. I'm going to use it vagrant user itself. Yesterday, I mean, in the WhatsApp group was some message which was going on. You are trying to switch it, and which was showing this vagrant, right? Suppose if you run that SU only, let me just show that if you just run it with the SU, now I have logged in as a root user, but still it is having this environment of the vagrant user. Suppose if I run that pwd, still you are in the vagrant home directory itself. So that's why it was showing the vagrant over here because you have switched that user with the previous user environment variables. I mean, the still home variable is referring that vagrant user home variable itself. But if you'd like to, okay, so let me exit here. If you need that root user related, then what you need to do is you need to use it su with hyphen option. Now I got it like a root user and root user related, the complete, I mean, that is environment. If I go for this, the pwd, now I'll be having about it root user account. Yeah, su root you can give it with username, but su root if you give it like you are just to keep on continuing with the previous user. That means vagrant user environment variables, and you are trying to switch to the root user. But su hyphen and then root user if you give it, then you are, yes, as a separate login shell it is going to create it for the root user. There's the main difference. This hyphen is going to play important role here. So was that like a discussion? Yeah, fine, good. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, so like I mean, once you have logged into the system and client is asking, or you need to know about it, what is that different network interfaces which are available to the system. How do you know about it is, yes, we have like IP, we can use it, IP addresses. Yes, there are like a list of all interfaces which we can say. I mean, suppose as simple as this, what is the network concept if you just understand it. Now we have launched that vagrant virtual machine, but I didn't configure any external network for this. That means I didn't configure any Wi-Fi settings for here. But where I have configured the Wi-Fi settings, so I have everything configured on my Windows system. Windows is my host OS. So on the host OS, whatever the network or whatever like a Wi-Fi, the adapter which has been configured. So adapters, we say that like adapters. What is the adapter whenever we talk it is like as interface. Or we say that's on the system level drivers. But networks point of view, we say that like as a network interfaces. As you are connecting from about your system to that external internet, yeah, some drivers which are working, network drivers you have on the system. These drivers, that is Wi-Fi driver or like LAN drivers, these drivers are helping to have the communication between external system to that about our system. Our system is basically like which are configured in that Windows system. But whenever I launch that vagrant virtual machine, and now I have the internet on this virtual machine or not? Yes, if I'm able to run it like something sudo yum update, and if I'm doing that updating on the system is nothing but, yes, it is trying to connect it to that like internet, and what are like the latest package and package related updates which we have. Updates it is trying to downloading, and it is going to try to install it. That means my system is having that network communication has been established, internet. But where I actually am having that internet? On my Windows system, I have the internet. That is not, I mean, I didn't configure directly on the vagrant machine. Yeah, so like how it is establishing is whenever we are launching the system on this, like I mean, this virtual machine. So like we have this the concepts like drivers, NAT driver, which is getting used. The default, I mean, if you just launch the system, during the launching the system, you can just observe that vagrant commands point of view. It is uses that the NAT network. Let me show that. So what is that VirtualBox? So how it is establishing the network communications, if you just observe that. Yeah, you can see in the settings options, yeah, the network it is using, yeah, the network point of view, and here it is creating some adapters for that. Yeah, VirtualBox, I mean, NAT it has been using that, and as well as one more interface, like two interfaces which are having this. One is NAT and second one is a host only adapter, which is, that means host IP addresses, whatever we have the same network, it is sharing to the virtual machine as well as. Yeah, through that NAT and host only adapter, there are the two adapters which are having to get it that internet to this about our virtual machine. So I mean, these VirtualBox are like on this virtual machine level. We have some settings. By default, it is taking about it and NAT kind of, and as well as host only. And these adapters are helping about it to have that external communication from this system. But what about those interfaces? Can I see those interfaces which are created? Yes, that's the command like which are trying to understand. IP yeah, which is helping about it all IP addresses. Yeah, so here you can see this, like we have this is one interface, and a third one another interface. So there are different interfaces which are available. But all these interfaces, if you just try to understand it, is like one more point. So default any system, if you just use it, the default one adapter. Suppose you are not connecting to that any external system, but even though in your local system it is going to have one adapter, that is which we can say that loopback adapter. Yeah, this is a loopback adapter, which we can say this, or we can call it as a local host. Yeah, the default what is the adapter that is going to create it on each and every system whenever you launch it, and without having any networks, what is the default adapter which is going to have is loopback adapter. And loopback adapter, what is the IP address it is using is, yeah, we call it as a host name point, like a local host we'll call it. You know, if you see that I have logged into the system and username is the vagrant, and what is the host name that is showing is local host is the host name. But what is this local host is, that is one of the network adapter which is created internally, and which is having 127.0.0.1 is the series of IP addresses. Yeah, this is, I mean, the default each system is going to have the local host with the loopback adapter, that is 127.0.0.1. But as like I mean, external communications point of view, yes, like we have that two more adapters are also, or two more interfaces also which are created. Yes, one is Ethernet 0, is one more network interface, and Ethernet 1. So Ethernet 0, this network interface, we have like a 10.02.15. This is like as a private IP address of the system, where you can use it only internal, but you cannot use it from external. Vagrant boxes are creating the default Ethernet 0. If you don't configure in the Vagrant file any networks, and if you launch it, yes, it is going to use it the default Ethernet 0, and which is having this is the IP address, and with this is CADR notation. And if you remember that in the Vagrant file, okay, let me go to that workspace. So we have this Vagrant file, right? Vagrant file we have launched. Let me open this. But to have that external communication to the system, that means I would like to connect from my Windows to this one. Yeah, but we need to have one public IP address to access the system. Yeah, from that external, if you need that communication, that's point of, if you remember about it, we are just understanding. So go to the Vagrant file and uncomment to this line. Yeah, uncomment to this line, which will be having the private network, and where you will be having that 192.168.33.10 or whatever the IP address that's required, you can configure it. So this configuration itself is created one more the interface, that is Ethernet 1, and where you can access this system by using this interface. Yeah, this is a system ID. I mean, ID is like as a name, but what is that interface that is helping about it to have the communication from that about our Windows to this The Linux one is, this is the interface which is running internally, and this interface, this is like as a connector, we can say. Yeah, this is I mean, this is the interface, and where we can use it, this is the ID, that is IP address of the system, and to have the communication to this system. Yes, we have like a loopback adapters and a private IP addresses. Only within that the network we can use it, and public IP addresses. But all these which we are having is nothing but each ID is having its specific interface to have the communication to the system. Yes, now if you'd like to connect to the system, yes, which we can use it this IP address, and where we can from the Windows you can connect it to the system. Yeah, but I mean, there's a point like, how do we know about it? List of all the interfaces that we have on the system, list of all the network interfaces, and which interface, yes, what is the communication channel that we have. Yeah, that is like IP address of the system. Yeah, so this is like yeah, this is, I mean, Ethernet one, which is having that. That means whatever, like suppose, can I create one more network here? Yes, so you can just copy it and paste it and define this one more IP address and restart the system. Then it is going to create one more network interface for that, and whenever you use it that IP address, it is going to use that interface to have the communication to the system. Yeah, so here whatever the information which are observing, that it is like as a communication channel to the system. Yes, you are using this IP address is nothing but this is like interface. You are using this IP address is nothing but this is interface. And the local point of view, each system is going to have the loopback adapter, and which is going to have this IP address. Yeah, how do we know that list of all the interfaces? And how do you know about it in that interface? What is the IP address that we have? Yeah, this is like IPA is a utility which we can use it, or we can have it like one more utility. Let me just okay, this has been completed. So we have like one more utility, ifconfig, but by default that is package is not available, so you need to install. Let me go for, I'm not sure the package name I have. So nettools or binder tools we have. Let me try it, nettools. So if you don't remember the package name, then go for like searching in the Google. Yes, if you find this ifconfig not found on the CentOS, then you will get it the package name and you can use it. We have nettools, binder tools, some packages to get it about all the networks related the commands. Yeah, this is a package. Let me try it now. Ifconfig. Yeah, nettools is a package name. You can install it on the CentOS. Yes, now this ifconfig, if I use it, yes, this is also helping that with the clarity. Like yes, this is Ethernet 0, Ethernet 1, and loopback adapter. The three interfaces, and each interface is having its specific IP address and subnet mask of that, and you can see the broadcast channel also. But in the IPA, it is not showing us all this information. But here you can see that yes, Ethernet 0, this IP address, and what is the subnet mask of it, and what is yeah, the broadcasting channel. And Ethernet 1, this is yeah about it. And here you can see that like the packets. I mean, suppose we are using, we are saying that interface is nothing but that interface is the mediator between about our Windows system to this virtual machine. But what are the data which is transmitting? Like a packets point of view, or like yeah, that's like what are the data which is transmitting from this system to the system. But all the packets whatever I have transmitted, that is successful or not, which we need to evaluate it. But how do you see that? Do you have any errors while connecting through these interfaces or not? Yeah, suppose if I use it the system IP address from the Windows system, okay, let me take it. And I'm just opening that one more git bash, one more terminal. Now this is my Windows system, or is it like a Linux system? This is my Windows system. From the Windows, can I try to connect it to the system? Yeah, there's a virtual machine. Okay. So 192.168.33.10. So what is the meaning of that? From the Windows, I'm trying to use it in this interface with this IP address. I'm trying to establish a communication to the system. But ping command, what is the ping command is, that is going to helpful that sometimes we need to check it that the remote system is reachable or not. Yeah, now we know that, okay, interfaces which are available, but this interface, is it working or not to have the communication to the system? So how I can check it from other system? Yeah, the ping command is from the Windows or like any system, so like a system to system on the base of the requirement, which you can use it, the ping command. And which is system's IP address, that's what you want to verify that, the remote system IP address. If you just give that, then, so if you get it, reply from this. Yes, now it is trying to ping it. Ping is nothing but internal, some packets it is trying to transmit it over the network. The data, some testing data it is using. And yeah, the pinging on this IP address with the 32 bytes of the data. And the reply, yes, it is a pinging, and we got it the response. Yeah, the reply from this IP address, yes, we got the reply from this IP address. Reply we got it is nothing but, yes, we are able to connect it to this machine. And what is the time it was taken that time? So that is bytes of the data and time, and yeah, the session time to live, the type of that time, yeah, that is like I mean, which is having less than 1 millisecond of the time to ping it and to get that information. But overall, if you just observe that this information is important, whether we are successfully connected and all the packets whatever we have submitted successfully received it or not. Yeah, this message from the ping command is going to help for that. Yeah, sent 4 and received also 4 packets. And we don't lose it any data whenever we have the communication between the Windows system to this virtual machine. Yeah, today we are understanding Windows to that. The Linux system maybe tomorrow, yes, within that AWS, yes, what are the systems we are using? System to system communication pointer. It doesn't matter that which system. Identify the source and destination. Because only this one or that one we cannot restrict it. Yes, that could be on the base of the requirement. And so here, the first we are understanding the virtual machines with the Windows, that is as a development environments point of view. And understanding the Linux and these concepts point of view are using. But tomorrow, whenever we go to that, like the cloud, yeah, whether the cloud or whatever it is how to check it one system to another system connected to is ping, and then the destination system IP address. Then you can check it about it, like I mean, do we have, are we lost it any data or not while communicating that, the data point of view. Yeah, this is one command. But now whatever the command I have used, which interface it is used from the system is, yes, this is the interface. Suppose, can I use it this interface? Suppose if I use it this interface from the Windows, now it is not accepting this external. That is internal, like which is a created one interface as like a private IP address point of view, but it is not having external communications. So this is only internal interface. But Ethernet 1, which is created, yes, that's for my point of view. In the vagrant file, we are enabling that to have the communication to the system from the Windows. But the default, what are the interface which is creating, that is only for internal, the private point of view. But yes, external with some static IP address, if you would like to use it to have the communication to the system, yes, that is a property from the vagrant file. Now what it is saying this is whenever I use it, this interface to connect it, so that is showing about it, request timed out, and it's trying to send 4 packets, but there is a, I mean, received the 0, and all the packets we lost it, and 100% loss of the packets. That means we don't have the communication to the interface about this one. And that's about like a network interfaces. How do we identify ifconfig and how do get it? Yeah, there's like a list of all the interfaces and each interface, that particular connectivity or connectors, and yeah, the net mask or like a broadcasting. And here itself you can see. Now if I use it Ethernet 1 here, like received data, do you have any errors or any dropped or overruns? This statistics also are helping about it. This communication channel or this interface, is it having any errors or not while receiving the data, while transmitting the data. Transmit is sending from that about our system, and R is for that receiving that data. As while receiving or sending, do you have any errors? Yeah, now it is showing the errors of the 0. That means this interface is active and we don't have any issues whenever we are connecting to this system. If this interface is down, then all the communication channels are going to get failure. Yeah, so this is like as I mean, if we just try to understand the communications, yes, which we have like how we have the mailing system in our like post mails, like a particular ID. Yes, each system is having its specific ID. That ID which is having like drivers or the adapters point of view. That's which we can say the network interfaces. That network interface is helping that to have the communication from external to internal or only internal. Yeah, this points which we can understand how to see this list of all the IP addresses and interfaces identification, and how do we check with the system connectivity. That's from the external system. There's a ping command. Yeah, there are some points from that the system's understanding. Yeah, you can use it IPA or IPADDR or IPA or IP address or particular interface also, which we can see, or ifconfig, the straightforward command. But on the Windows, how do you check in that list of all the interfaces? Suppose this is my Windows system. So my Windows system, yes, is I have that internet. If I'm able to yes talk it with you all is nothing but yes, I have that internet, and that internet is supporting it to have that external communication. That means some interfaces are created for that background. Yeah, if that interface is okay, which is up and running, that's why like we do that. I mean, all the network, the system level, the interfaces, as you can see, that's all like a possible interfaces. Yes, which interface are you going to use it? Yes, you are opening that any network is nothing that is going to create one interface on the system. That interface is helping that to transmit the data, to receive the data. Yeah, but how do I see this on the Linux system is about like all the interfaces and about all IP addresses on the basis of the channels which we have. IP config. Yeah, now you can see this like one of the interface wireless. Wireless LAN adapter, local area connection, and wireless LAN adapter Wi-Fi. Yeah, so the Wi-Fi is connected is nothing but this is the interface which we have, and this is a gateway which is having to have the external communications, and this is like a system ID, and this is the subnet mask from that, and it is using IP v6 format. Yeah, like as a system identification point of view, we have like two approaches: IPv4 approaches and IPv6 approaches. So what is that IPv4 and IPv6? Yeah, some difference if you try to understand it, IPv6 and IPv4. I'll conclude it, but let's so here these are all the interfaces which I have this on my Windows system, and this is like I mean if I launch any system on this virtual box, and if I have this any system over here is nothing but the system is having one interface internally, or one or two on the basis of like nats or like the loopback adapters which are using. Yes, it is going to create. Suppose this I have the two systems which are up and running. One system which is having as a NAT adapter which is created, and this system is also having that like a NAT adapter with host only adapters. So what is the meaning of that is, so like a background. So you see there's like some Ethernet adapters, virtual box host only network, host only network 2 and host only network 3, and one local area connection, one adapter which is available, and wireless Wi-Fi point of view I have this one more the interface. There are like different interfaces which are having on my Windows, and which are created to have the communication between external to internal, or internal to that like a virtual concepts point of view, virtual concepts like which are helping networking also, right? Network virtualization also. Yes, my like host networks whatever we have, it is virtualizing to the virtual machines which are accessing this through this virtual box. But background, there are interfaces which are creating to have the communication channels. Yes, if any communication channel is not working, you need to make sure about it. All the interfaces are up and running or not. Yeah, the status of it. Yeah, how got these points? So how do you check it like IP addresses, interfaces? Yeah, if you give that Ethernet 0 IP address in Sublime Editor, is it going to access that IP address through ping? In Sublime Editor, why do we use it? Sublime Editor is like as editing the files. Okay, you are asking about the Git bash.
Actually, sir, hello.
Yes.
You said that Ethernet 0 10.2 something one IP address.
Correct.
So uh, in Sublime Text Editor, we have the private network IP address like 192.168. So it is going to access that IP address only. So if we edit that 10.0 something IP address in Sublime Editor, so then
Hmm.
by using the ping command, is it going to access that IP address? I mean, actually, in before you have showed that
No, that's
ping
not
10.
going to work. That's why I was saying this. Right? Yeah, this is just created internal one network interface, but this you cannot use it as the external point of view.
Okay,
Suppose
okay,
if I use it at 10, that is Ethernet 1, it is we are not able to ping it. That is not. I mean, that is not the external. The network is not accepting vagrant boxes whenever you are using. The default it is going to create that interface internally. But
okay,
if you need that external communication to the system, this point of view in the the vagrant file before launching, if you need that any external communication to the system, you need to configure explicit IP address for that. So this is
okay,
the property from that vagrant file and a private
hmm,
network. The type of the network we can define the public network and a private network, but as a
yeah,
static IP addresses point of the private network, public network there are like I mean the dynamic
dynamical.
hosting approaches,
Hmm, okay,
and we will define that IP address.
okay,
Use this
okay.
IP
Only
address
for the
whenever
external purpose only we can use this IP address like on the
yes,
192
correct.
dot.
Yeah,
Okay,
whatever you are configuring in the vagrant file, that IP address use it uh,
hmm,
to have a communication to that interface.
okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's one point, IP address. But like yeah, the next some more points or some more commands if you would like to understand it from this network. Suppose IP address, do you remember that always? Suppose now we have this IP address which has been configured to the system. But always remembering this IP address is difficult, right? Yeah, remembering, suppose instead of the google.com, if they give that some IP address, something like 142.164.2. Or something 10.2, some IP address they have given. Well, this is my host is or my application is hosted on this IP address. Use this IP address to access that application. How many times do you remember that IP address to use it to access the Google? Google.com is easy or like IP address is easy? Which one is that? Yeah, Google.com is a name based, right? Name based identification. But name you are using is nothing but backend somewhere that IP address over the network. Name based resolution, I mean, it is not going to work it. But backend over the network, whatever like a TCP layer, which we are saying about the TCP layer can use it only IP address form point of view. But user point of view, naming options are the recommended. But backend networks point of view, yes, like octets which we have like IPv4 octet or IPv6 octet formats. That is supporting that over the network. But user to remember that okay, this is the system IP address. Okay, user this IP address always. Remembering that is very difficult. Yeah, we can try to recollect it. If you have the 10 sites, all the 10 sites we to manage it, you need to have like separate notepad where you can have it like all the IP addresses of that systems. But the point what we have is yes, the once the system is ready, one more configuration. What do we do? That is the networking side, the host name configurations. But host name DNS, I'm not talking that the I'm going to talk in the local one. But the DNS is how it is going to work. It there's a big concept, but that is we'll come back in Route 53 whenever we discuss that's in the cloud. But for the timing, what is the concept which you can understand is yeah. Now what is the default system? Suppose if I use it host name, yes. Now it is showing about it. Local host is the host name, and some like a domain name which is having the local domain. This is a domain name and actual name of the host name which we have this is localhost. Or if I type that, I mean with the this is a hostname command which is going to give that host name of the system. But the point is the default, I mean whatever the local host name which is having, this is from network, the default the loopback adapter, the point of it is given that. But can I change this name or not? I don't want to use that as a local host, but this is, let's assume that this is, I'm going to configure for the web server or app server or DB server. So I need to have it some name for this system. How do you do that is, yeah, so we have like one more utility. The hostname CTL is the utility which we can use it to define or to configure the hostname of the system. Yes, but it is helping about to get that information is what is the hostname default now we have is localhost. And yes, which is having some icon names and the machine IDs and the boot IDs, and virtualization it is using KVM, and what is the OS it is using, and what is the OS name that is CentOS 7, and what is the kernel it is using, kernel information, and what is the architecture of the system. Yes, it is giving all that system information. Fine. This is also one more command where you can get it, architecture of it and the OS of that, and as well as which type of the virtualization it is using. That's all that information. If you need it, yes, you can run that hostname CTL. This is one more command. But if you go for that, some more help on this from the hostname CTL. Yes, now it is showing that the status. It is like as a status information here. But we can do setting the host names and setting the chases names or the deployment names or location names. Yes, we have the different options. But one of the option which we're going to use it, host name setting that. Yeah, host name by default, each system is going to have the local host. But if you are going to manage that services on the base of the services as like a web or app or the databases or the monitoring services point of view, we need to configure the specific host name. How to configure that? The specific host name the system says sudo hostname CTL and set hostname, and you can pass it like what are the name which you would like to set up this. That is, let's assume that this system I am going to use it as a CentOS Linux, some identification. Yeah, so this command has been set up that, but still you don't see this. I mean, it still is showing this local host only, right? Yes, one time you need to just log off and log in to reflect that the host name in the current user shell environment variables point of view. You need to log off and log in. Just let me log off and let me log in once again. It is taking the time to log in. Yes, now you can see this. What is the name it is having is CentOS Linux. Yes, whenever we log in, immediately we can identify that. So what is the host name of the system? Yeah, this is one more command, hostname CTL, which is helping about it to set the host names. But if you are defining this, all these network interfaces, or if I defining that the host names or IP addresses, somewhere it is stored, right? Yeah, so like user we are creating a user deleting, we are saying about it everything that is going to update either in etc password file or etc group file or etc shadow files. Fine, those are all some important files which belong to the user management. But if you are seeing this all these networks and if you are configuring these network in the host names, so somewhere all this information it is storing that. Yes, where it is storing that, and some files if you just browse it, networking related etc hostname file, you can see that. So these are etc hostname is one file, but normally you don't see this. Yeah, so this is the file. Whatever we are setting up the hostname. So etc hostname is the file where it is updating about that hostname of the system. Yeah, hostname CTL command we have used and we have set up that, but background where it is running. And whenever the user is logging from where it is going to loading that the host name of the system is, that is, yeah, the etc host name. Yeah, this is one file. And if you go for this more network interfaces files point of view, so we have like within the etc network is the directory, not network. So go for that sysconfig. And within the sysconfig, you can see this like some network related the files. We just observe that this is one file, etc sysconfig, but by default it is not having any information. But like some network configuration or some configuration point of you can find it. This is one file, but instead of this file, let me go for network scripts. Is the directory, and here you can see like how many interfaces we have the total. Whenever we run the ifconfig, 3 interfaces we are observing that. Yes, the loopback adapter, Ethernet 0 adapter, and Ethernet 1 adapter. Yeah, all the configuration of that, the adapters, where it is storing this is, that is in etc sysconfig network scripts. Ethernet interface which we are observing that, this complete information we can find it in this file. Now let me go for the cat, and if you go for that if cfg, and what is that, the file name? Yeah, Ethernet 1, if you just observe that, yes, here you can see that interface is using the switch IP address. Yes, this is the IP address. And what is the net mask it is having? This is the net mask. And what is the device it is using? Ethernet 1. And is it configured that like automatically to start up this during the boot time? Yes, on boot. Yeah, so there are some properties which are helping as to control it about this interface. As if you like to customize this IP address of this interface or net mask, and we have like some DHCP which is required or not. I'll show the some properties from that. Yeah, so if you need that like a DHCP, dynamic hosting approaches, but normally that is not recommended, as a static IP addresses is recommended. But if you need it, the dynamic hosting approaches also from that interfaces. That means whenever you boot up, new IP addresses which are going to be generated on the base of from the server pool, taking that IP address and assigning that IP address, dynamic IP address. But whatever we have configured for the Vagrant now, this is getting used static IP address. Yes, how many times if you restart it, always that IP address is the same. This is a static one. But we have some public IP addresses which you can have it like a dynamically. Whenever you stop it and start it, yes, it is going to create like a new IP addresses on the base of like from the DHCP server pool. What are like IP addresses which are available? One of the random IP address it is going to assign that during starting the system. But that is not recommended. But yeah, but we'll see this in the cloud, that DHCP, the public IP addresses, those options. But for the timing, yes, if you just try to understand that each interface on that, whatever you are going to use it, where the complete information that will be stored of that interface is, yes, there's a backend, it is going to manage that network scripts. In the etc sysconfig network scripts, yes, for each interface, you can see that the separate scripts over here. And where you can find it, the net mask information and the device information. Device is like as a interface information, and boot up time that is required or not, DHCP required or not. That's we can control it from this configuration file. Yeah, that's about interfaces and where that interfaces information background it is storing that. And the one more point, like how do we manage that host names for the systems? Yeah, there's a host name CTL, but background where it is storing that in the etc host name is the file. And IP addresses or interfaces, whatever we are observing is background. Somewhere it is storing that. Where it is storing that network scripts. That is like etc sysconfig network scripts. If you need the customization, yes, you can open these files and you can edit that. The interfaces customization or IP addresses point of view. The DHCP are static. But what other fields are available? That's I'll come back to that some points over here. Yeah, that's about interfaces point of view, the host names point of view, and these interfaces and host name related where the configuration files are located on the Linux system. How about these points? Yeah, so next if you move to this next one more concept, DNS. So what is this DNS? First, let's have some words on this, but this is a big concept. I will talk it in the cloud. Until that cloud, but just to have it on the Linux system. So how that the DNS resolution is going to work. That concept is required, but global wise how the DNS is working, that's we have the big concept. I'll come back whenever we started Route 53, that service in the cloud. but like on the local system. But what is the DNS and some points to get it that? Let me just conclude that DNS concepts. It's like FQDN, that is a fully qualified domain name. So that is suppose we are using about it like a google.co.in or mail.google.co.in or drive.google.co.in. We have like, I mean, google.co.in or google.com is a main domain name, right? So whenever I use it browsing about it, all these sites, URLs, we are using the domain name. That is a fully qualified domain name. But what is a fully qualified domain name? Suppose if I use it google.co.in or com. Okay, let me use it co.in. What is the meaning of that is, or what is the difference between the com? If I use it, yes, I'm getting the same page. Or if I use it .co.in, also if I use it, you have the same page which you're getting. But do you have this any difference of that? Yes, as the specification point of view, this is like a .in India domain. Yes, whenever it is looking about the Google domain name, the first it is going to, as a search criteria. Search criteria is important, right? Whenever we hit the name, this is like you are requesting the name based identifying that application. Application somewhere in the server it is running. But to access that server, the server is having IP address over the network. But IP address it is not possible to remember always. So this point of view, I have that DNS concept, domain name concept. Yes, use the domain name instead of IP address. But what is the domain name is nothing but this is just like as a reference. Yes, I'm hitting the user point of the google.co.in, but backend this Google is mapped with. If I use it co.in, then that is going to locate that within the domain, India domain, finding about the server where it is Google is located. If I use it as general.com, yes, it is going to look into that overall global wise searching that where the Google domain is located. This is like search criteria within the search filter criteria. So co.in is like India domain wise verifying about it where this Google is located. Google server where it is has been set up that on the networks within the India domain. That means India is a separate network, or US is a separate network. But all common which you have this is common network. That is on the basis of like domains which we have. Thus we can say top level domain. But whatever the Google one, yeah, whenever we hit it, first it is going to take the top level domain, finding about it, is it a global wise or is it the specific region wise. Once it is located within the region, then it is going to look at that the Google, where the Google is located. Yeah, the Google server IP address. Yes, within that India domain, somewhere it is registered in one of the providers. Like we have the domain providers, right? GoDaddy. Yeah, so if you just browse it like a GoDaddy, yes, they are providing. If you need that any domain, you can register with them. You can create one domain, and they are providing some server, and we can register with about your domain or application. Yeah, the search criteria to filter it, we have like a first top level domain, then which we can say that main domain, top level domain. And suppose if I go for here, we have like a mail.google.co.in. If I use it, yes, there is no option. Let me try it. Maybe they have changed that. Yeah, they have given accounts.google.com. So instead of the mail, yes, we can use it. Yes, it is going to have that accounts.google.com. That is like the site which is registered with the Gmail server. Accounts.google.co.in. That means that is a subdomain, right? We have like if you just observe that the overall, suppose if I use it a drive.google.com or co.in which we have. That means top level domain is having the domain, and domain is having the subdomain. Yes, whenever it is using the search criteria, first it uses the top level domain, finding about it, this domain is it registered or not. And within this domain, again, we have like a subdomains. This is the search criteria and name-based filtering option. Yeah, if you are using this complete name, we can call it as a fully qualified domain name. But if I use it only Google option as a shortcut notation, suppose whenever we create like web servers or database servers, we use it which environment related the server. So which will be having the standard notations, and some standard notations, if we just observe that, yeah, the server name, like how that will be having is web server, something like, okay, let me give that web, and which is having that environment web server, which belong to the production or QA or the staging. Then the server number, so the servers like suppose web servers which are planning this in the production 4 servers. Yeah, the web, the environment, and then the server name dot. Then some client IDs or the client specifications. Then we'll be having that domain and with a top level domain, co.in or co.s or whatever that. So that is like this is the way of representation to give that or identifying that the system names for the network. Yeah, we'll see this all these some more options whenever we are creating like a DNS option. That's we'll come back. But if you just understand it, the domain concept point of view, these are all like a filter criteria. And the Google you are asking is nothing but Google application in some server is located. Some server is nothing but there's one of the system. The system you need to connect it is nothing but there's IP address. That IP address user cannot remember it. That's point of view you have this domain approaches. So mapping about it this server with the IP address. But who is helping about it, mapping about this IP address with the domain name is, yes, we have like a domain name service, DNS service. That service we can use it, and we can take the help of the service to manage it or to map it, IP address with the URLs or URL with URLs or IPv6 with URLs. We have like some notation. So I'm not going to dig into that all that, but whenever we talk about that cloud, we will come back. What are the different types of record sets we can create it? That is on the basis of the requirement. Yeah, so this is the standard names, but all these names, how do we use it or how do we identify this is backend, like which we'll be having this, yeah, the backend, I mean, communication channel IP address, but front end, the user level, that is like this one, we can call it as a fully qualified domain name, which is having like a top level domain and the domains and then sub level domains. The fully qualified domain name, FQDN. Or only domain name. Domain name is like as a, yes, that is a main domain which is configured for that. A fully qualified domain name contains the domain name. Yeah, the DNS point of view, yes, there are some points which we need to understand it. Top level domain, subdomains, a fully qualified domain name, which is the complete resource identifier. Yes, where exactly the particular IP address is located. The complete resource identifier, we can say fully qualified domain name. Yes, these are the notations. Like the which service and which environment and what is the server number, and then the client specification IDs point of view, yes, that is like a subdomain, top level domain, and then finally yeah, that's TLDs which will be used. Yeah, TLD here it is like a .com or .net.org. They're all we can call it as a top level domain. First search criteria which starts over there to look into about that particular resource. Then the domain names, yes, the domain name of it below to the left of the TLD, that is left of this TLD. And then subdomain. Subdomain is left to that the domain name, the below to the left of the domain. Yeah, there are the main terminologies which we use: it top level domain, domain name, and subdomain. And fully qualified domain, that is a combination of all these three. Yeah, so this point like which we need to understand how to display the host name. Yes, we got it, and you can use it like a different commands. I mean, different solutions are available, so that's you can try it, but understand the concept. The concept if you have, then you can use it one command or another command or another command. That is about yes, on the basis of which you have this concept, so then you can use it. But concept, overall concept is important. Without knowing the concept, you cannot work it on that. Yeah, host name is a command which you can use it to get the host names, or uname -n which you can use it. Try with that. I mean, these options. to get the host name of that, and host name -f. Yes, this is the fully qualified domain name of that the system. To get it about that, which you can use it host name -f options. Yeah, how do you set the host name CTL, which you can use it, and which is stored in this in etc hostname, and where that network scripts that will be stored. Yes, network and network scripts. Just look into about it, that locations. And one more point. Okay, let me talk it that. Suppose google.com, we are understanding that. Suppose if you hit it in the browser google.com, background, it is going to first locating about it, this google.com related IP address where it is located, right, where it is available. First it has to find that. But do we get that IP address of the google.com? That means you know a host name, and that host name is mapped with which IP address, or where it is located. How do you know about it? Yes, we have like one more command, that is the host command, host, and suppose google.com. If you use it, yes, what it is in that host command not found. That means if you'd like to use it, this you need to get it some package support here. What is that package that's we have for this is so bind utils. Let me try it. So before we are installing net tools or bind tools, okay, yeah, bind utils. Yes, so this is a package which is going to helpful to get it about some networking related commands. Yeah, that is if I use it, the host google.com. Now the google.com, whenever we are hitting from the browser, background what exactly is happening is this is the IP address where it is looking. I mean, it is finding about it. There's the complete IP address of this google.com. And it is IPv6 address, as we are saying about it, v4 and v6. But what is the difference if we just observe that v4 and v6? Suppose from this v4, how many maximum IP addresses we can get it? So IPv4, what is the limitation that we have? This is maximum devices if we need it. That's we're gonna have it. Yes, exactly. The 256 into 256 into 256 into 256. Maximum devices 4 billion devices. But if we needed more than that, then IPv4 address is having the limitation. We cannot go beyond that. So once all the 4 billion devices have been used, IP addresses in our, yeah, so we are connecting one like a mobile device is nothing but that mobile device is going to use it one IP address as to have that internet communication. Like that, if we just observe that how many the devices that we have this on the network. But IPv4 is not sufficient to manage it complete all the devices. Suppose now we have like a sensor motions, right? Like AC, we can control it from like mobile, from any location. If you just have the internet, but how it is going to have that about your mobile communicating with that AC device? Yes, AC is that one of the IP address, and that is registering that you are accessing about it that device from remotely, and they have given some control as user interface to control about all the switches which are available. So if you just think it like this, how many devices that we have this on the internet, and that means how many IP addresses that is required. But IPv4, which is have the limitation that is the 4 billion approximately. But if we need that more than that, then we have like a next version of this IPv4, which we have this is IPv6, which is having some standard notation like I mean that is you just browse it. Yes, this is like a hexadecimal notation which is going to use it. Like it is not like as a normal IP address format. Yes, you can just browse it like how many bits it is having, and within that like a network prefix how many, and the group ID is how many. So almost like 4 plus 4, so 8-bit notation which we have. and each bit which is having some like specific options or specific explanation, you can just browse it. That is but mostly IPv6 which will be used for the IoT based devices. It's like just we are saying about it, sensor based application, the controlling of it. That is like which they use it IPv6, but normal most of about our application and infrastructures which we use it IPv4. Yes, you need to have the clarity on the IPv4, but if you need that IPv6, yes, you can browse it and you can go ahead refer in the documentation of it. But the main difference what we have this is IPv4 is handles some specific limitation, but beyond that, yes, you need to use it IPv6. Yes, that's IP address. It is written in. Yeah, whenever what I'm trying to do this here, I'm using the host command and I have the domain name. This domain name is mapped to that which IP address. How do we check it? Like the domain name mapping with that IP address is the host or dig. Host or dig, these are the two commands which are helping to get it about that. Domain, you know it, but the backend IP address having, if you'd like to know that, yes, you can use it a dig command also. Yeah, this is more clarity which is going to helpful. So what exactly is happened this is yeah, we got that answer. Yes, dig is requested the DNS server was google.com. Give me the IP address for this google.com. Dig is requested. And we got that answer. What is the answer? We got it. Yes, now you can see that status wise is no error. And it is requested one query from the dig command. But which service it is requested? DNS service. And from the DNS service, we got that answer saying that one answer. But what is the answer? Yeah, now you can see that. Yeah, the question section is google.com is a question which we have requested. Yes, you are requesting this using the dig command google.com. Let me know that what is the IP address for this google.com. And google.com is written that that is answer from the DNS service, the type of record set, but all these type of record sets I will explain this during the AWS concepts, and the type of the record set and what is the IP address that is mapped to this record set. Yeah, dig or host are the commands which are helping about it to request about the domain name with the DNS service and getting about the IP address of the domain name. Yeah, user level which we know that google.com, but you need to know that whether which IP address it is mapped to that. Yeah, suppose you are working in some web server, you are using the host name, but the host name you need to check it what is the IP address that is mapped. Yeah, how to get it that IP address of the domain names? That is the dig command or host commands which are helping out there. Yeah, the host or dig commands, host you can use it the IP address, and host with the IP address also which you can use it, which is going to this like which you can say that reverse way resolving that DNS names. Yeah, you can use it IP address to get it about that the which domain name it is mapped. Yeah, the host command or dig command. And yeah, like one more small file, but this file you can just refer this from the videos itself. Yeah, so these are all some additional concepts we have as we are understanding, like ifconfig. Each interface you have there is nothing but it is having some the background scripts which are generated. Yes, you can see this. There are all the properties on boot required or not, or what is the gateway it is using, or what is the network it is having, or what is the net mask or IP address. During the boot up, do we need it or not, and what is the device name. And here you can see that DHCP related one more property, that is a boot proto is DHCP or not. Yeah, by default, what is that like a boot proto which we got it? Yeah, boot proto is not set that, but if you need that dynamic hosting, that means whenever you restart it and automatically need to get that from the from the DHCP mechanism, the dynamic IP addresses, then you can enable that boot proto as a DHCP, then the dynamic hosting mechanism. But like a static, which we go further mostly. Yeah, that is one concept. And one more point, let me just conclude it, and the remaining you can just refer this from the video. Yeah, suppose like whenever we start like a database services or the middleware services or proxy services, we need to check if that service is up and running or not. Service, if you just try to understand it, Suppose whenever we discuss that Apache service is running on which port? That is on 80, right? Yeah, 80 is the port. But that port on the system, it is running or not? I need to check it now. Or before configuring one more server, I need to check it the port availability. How to check it the port availability on the system? That means port is already using or not. That is checking about it availability of the port. Yes, what is the command that we can use? It is netstat -nltp, or T for the TCP protocol ports, or U also can use it UDP based protocols, or both if you need it, A which we can use it, or U both. Now it is going to give that UDP ports and TCP ports. Yes, now on this machine 80 service is running or not? Yes, Apache service is running. Yes, this is a port. And 22, yes, SSH, we are able to SSH is nothing but SSH service is up and running. And 25, this is one more service, 25, that is for SMTP. Yeah, sending the mails from the system, can I do that or not? Yeah, that SMTP port is listening that. But you need to configure some additional packages to send the email notification. That is a different story. But the service is ready. And 22 SH port, yes, you can use it on any IP address. That means on any interface you can use it to this 22. Any interface is nothing but we have the total 3 interfaces, right? Loopback adapter, that is the local host, and Ethernet 0, that is a 10 series, the private IP address, and we have like one more 192 series, that is Ethernet 1. So the 0000 is nothing but yes, any interface which you can use it from the system and you can connect it. That is 22 SH point of view, or 80. 80, it is not defined. That means any IP address, any channel, you can use it, and with 80. That means you can access the locally and you can access the remotely also. But if I bind this one to that only this IP address, 127 loopback adapter only in local, right? You cannot use it external. These are all the concepts required whenever we are going to work with a Docker point of view. And whenever we are going to work with us like the port exposing or SSH handling options point of view, these are all concepts which are going to help with that. At least which you should know that from the system, yes, what all the interfaces are available, which are all the connected options are available, and where these configurations are located, and a host names point of view, and a DNS concepts point of view. DNS, okay, that is just like I have that point, but whenever we see that's like a cloud, within the cloud, yes, we need to manage that DNS service. That is route 53, a separate service we have. There we go further more deep into that. Just to have that, yeah, the DNS is mapping of that the domain name with IP address. That concept is enough for the timing as a system level. Suppose if I use it to ping localhost, yes, we are able to ping it. But what is this localhost? Or if I use it to ping CentOS Linux, yeah, so we are able to ping is on this like local base. I mean the local loopback adapter. That means like within the system somewhere this the CentOS Linux, that name or like local host name, it is mapped with the IP address. Anyway, host name is that is which is configured, but the local host where it is mapped. We just observe that in the etc host file. Now you can see this one loopback adapter we are saying about it, right? Loopback adapter, that is LO. Yeah, that loopback adapter is using either local host, or you can use it local host as local domain, or local host 4, or local host 4 dot. And these are the different alias names it has been given. Either you can use it this name, either you can use it fully qualified domain name, or this domain name, or this fully qualified domain name. But all these are all mapped with this IP address. That means this is the name which is mapped with this IP address. But the scope of this DNS mapping is only to the local system. etc host file is only on the local system. Suppose, like if I open this file, let me do this one small activity. And what is the IP address which we have is, there is a read-only file. Let me open that sudo what is the IP address which you have is 192.168.33.10. This is the IP address, but I don't want to use this IP address. I would like to use it something like a web server. Can I use it like this? Yes. If I just if I define in the etc host file the IP address mapping with the name, that is like a domain name you are mapping there, but this is local file, local host file. Only on this server you can use it that. And now if I go for that ping web server, yes, we are able to ping it, but whenever I call that web server, what is the IP address it is using? Background it is using 192.168. There's anyway one interface which is there, right, on the system. Yeah, using that interface, it is trying to ping it, and it is able to connect it. Yeah, local DNS name resolver is etc host file. And how do you see this? All the port numbers which are running on the system is, which we have, that is netstat command -nmtp. And how do you configure the host names, and where these host names related information that is storing, and what all the interfaces are available, where these interfaces related scripts are located. Yeah, these are all the concepts that is required from the system level to understand it, but complete global level domain how it is working, then we need to wait until that there's like a cloud the specification, some solutions we have, we'll come back to that.